Hello, tiny friends, and welcome to Tiny Keyhole Minis. I'm Jolene, and today I'm going to do some renovating in this back bedroom here. I spoke a little bit about this when I did the Josephine house tour. I think it was episode 3 when we toured the upstairs. But today is the day, tiny friends. So my miniature vision is to create a faux closet, and I want to create an open door closet with a hanging curtain. And I also want to give this wall a new look and turn it into an old farmhouse shiplap wall. So yeah, let's see how that goes, how it turns out. Okay, so this is part 1, basically all the prep work, and part 2 will be out in about 3 days, and you'll get to see the installation and the final results. So I'm going to begin using some graph paper here, and I'm going to make a wall template. And the reason why I'm using graph paper is because I want to get more of an accurate measurement for the door opening here. So right now I'm just measuring another doorway in the house from the ceiling to the top of the frame, and it measures about 2 inches. So I know that I can go in this room and measure from the top of the wall 2 inches down and create a little mark here so that I know, okay, that's where the top of my door frame is going to sit. And then I'm going to go in and just make some rough marks. I'm actually going to put the bed back in here before I measure, but I've measured the door including the door frame, and it measures 3.5 inches. Now I'm going to include the door frame in this because I do have to create a door frame, but I'm going to go ahead and put the bed in before I actually do some measuring here, because I don't want the bed to be sitting right on top of the door. I want there to be enough space just in case I decide to put something against this wall here, and I'll know that, I have enough space to do so. So I'm going to go in and measure 3.5 inches in width, and I'm just doing a rough measurement right here, and I'll trace it and measure it out in a bit here. I'm going to go ahead and finish off this wall template here and begin my measurements. So again, I'm going to be including the door frame here, so my measurements are actually going to be larger than the door opening. And once I get this last line marked down here, I'm going to go ahead and measure that just to make sure, and I see that I am exactly 1 square off, so I need to move this line in 1 square. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll be at 3.5 inches in width. Okay, so now that I've got that squared away, I'm going to go ahead and trace out my door opening. Now the pieces of wood that I'm using for the door frame measure exactly 2 of these squares in width, and that's easy enough. I'll just go around each side and measure out 2 squares per side. Okay, so I've cut out the opening to my doorway, and I'm just going in to make some marks here. Now I'm using a mat board, and I am actually using a scrap piece of mat board that I used previously. So I'm actually going to have to create this wall in 3 pieces. So what I'm doing here is making some marks every 2 squares down the whole piece, and this is going to be my first piece that I'm working on. So after I get all my marks, I'm doing this on both sides of this piece. I'm going to go in with my ruler, and I'm just going to connect these marks with a straight line. I'm going to do this all the way down, and it's going to look like stripes. But these lines here are going to be my score marks, where I can go back in and score out the grooves in between the planks of each board. Now you could do shiplap walls several different ways. You can overlap them, you can score them out like I'm doing here, You can use wood, cardboard, you can use single pieces of wood. You just do it several different ways, and there's a few different styles of a shiplap wall. But I'm going to go ahead and go with this. And I'm going to use my mat board. Now I'm scoring on the lines that I've drawn out with the pencils, and then I'm going to score 2 lines per board or per pencil mark, and then I can go in and peel away those layers. It'll leave me a nice little strip that I can peel away and create the grooves that will be sitting in between each plank, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a bit. So what I'm going to do is go in with my ball stylus here, and I'm using the pointy end that really doesn't have a ball on it. It's more like a needle. And I'm just going to dig out the layers that I've scored, creating the grooves for each plank, or to separate each plank. And you'll see, you'll get a better view of what it looks like here in a minute. But I'm going to do this to all 3 pieces before I begin to paint. So this is what it's starting to look like. And you can see those planks are separated now. And you can do your beadboard this way as well. I've done beadboard in the past like this. I've done beadboard like this on wood or on mat board. I mean, it's almost the same technique here. So I'm going to put all these pieces down and get a visual and see how it's looking. Now, this end piece here that I'm going to place on the other side of the doorway, you'll see it's a little bit too big, so I'm going to have to trim that down just so that I can put my frame there on that side. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, tiny friends, so now is the fun part. It's time to paint. And I'm going to try something new that I was thinking about that I haven't tried yet, so I'm a bit nervous. I'm using this paint that I have left over from the Hall Tree. It's got 2 colors in it, and I just poured them in there. I didn't mix them up. I wanted to keep them separated. I'm also going to use brown, gray, black, and white. And I'm going to use the black and white to create different tones of the brown, gray, and this goldish color here. And what I'm thinking is, I'm just going to put this paint on here randomly, the colors and the different shades of each color. I'm not gonna keep them separated. It's gonna be messy. I'm not even gonna wipe my brush off. I'm just gonna go in and put these colors down randomly, because what I want to create is, I want it to look like the wall has been made and created with different kinds of wood, new wood, old wood, salvaged wood, and I want all those different tones of the different pieces of wood to come through when I apply the white. So I'm a little bit nervous here, and you can see that I'm a little sketched out in the beginning, and I'm not really sure about it, but I decided to just trust the process on this, tiny friends. So I started not thinking about it and just trusting the process. And yeah, I'll show you what it looks like. It's one of those things that you're like, I don't know about this, but you got to trust the process. Okie dokie, tiny friends. So this is what it's looking like. And yeah, and this is hopefully gonna work. But again, I'm just going to trust the process. I'm going to go ahead and do this same technique to the other two pieces. Okay, that scary part is over with. It's too late now, no going back. I can only move forward from here. So I'm going to take my crackle medium and I'm just going to do random areas, and I'm just going to dab it all around to some random spots, just to give that white paint a little bit of cracking and make it look a little bit older. So I'm just going to go in here and work that out as I'm dry brushing. I'm using white acrylic. And yeah, tiny friends, again, I'm just going with whatever my mind is telling me to do. I'm not an expert at this. I'm just going with the flow here. You can see that it's still a little wet, but it's tacky enough to go ahead and throw some more of that paint on there. And again, I'm going to do this to all three pieces. I'm going to go a little heavier on the crackle, but I will blend it out a little bit so that it doesn't look like random patches of white paint around the wall. And we'll take a look at this later in a little bit. Okay, so while these pieces are drying, I'm going to go in. I have a light pencil mark around the opening of my doorway here. And I'm going to take some black acrylic paint and I'm going to begin to paint my door here, my door opening, so that I'm actually painting, I guess, the closet or the inside of the closet. But yeah, so I'm just going to begin painting this area that I've drawn out with black acrylic. Okay, so my pieces are dried. You can see a little bit of the crackling. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's a little bit of crackle here and there where the paint has cracked. And I just need to go in here and define these grooves and bring these planks out a little bit more. So how I'm going to do that is by using my chalk pastels, and I'm going to be using kind of the same colors that I painted the mat board with, and I'm just going to go in and add some shading and toning in those grooves, and that's going to make these planks pop right out, so it's not going to look like this anymore. You're actually going to see the individual planks, so it's going to look a lot better. I really like this section here. This is actually my favorite section of the wall because it looks really realistic. But you'll get a really good view of that in the next video, and you'll get to see really what that looks like. So I'm going to go in and just bring these planks out so that they look like individual planks, and right now they just look like they're all washed out and it's like a whiteout here. But once I go in with these chalk pastels, you're going to begin to see these planks as individual pieces of wood. So I'm going to go in and do that, and I'll give you a few views as I go along here, and you'll begin to see these planks a little bit better. They won't be so washed out. See what I mean? This is how they're beginning to look, and they're starting to look like individual planks here, and they're starting to look like they're separated. It's just giving a little bit more definition to these pieces on the wall here and bringing them right out. But I'm going to go ahead and do this to all three pieces. As you can see the difference where I haven't done it down on the bottom, and I've begun to do it more so the top and the middle there. I'm basically just going to do that with different colors, but I'm trying to stay with similar colors to what I used on the wall underneath the white. But see how much better it's beginning to look, and you can see the difference there. So a little bit of chalk pastels goes a long way. It's kind of like the magic to this. It brings out the detail a little better. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and work on the baseboard. Now I've created a mouse trap here, or not a mouse trap, a mouse hole. And I'm still thinking of my mice traps I made. But I created a mouse hole. I've just carved out a little piece and painted it with black acrylic. And you can actually see that it's got some depth to it. I also had to add some chipboard to the back of these pieces here to bring them out a little more, because I'm adding another layer on the wall, and I needed these pieces to come forward as well. And I'm also going to do that to the door frame, because I want to create a little bit of depth so that you can see, you know, it looks a little more like a closet or an opening. I'm just going to sand around the edges here and smooth them down just a little bit. And then I'm going to paint them with my Waverly Antique Wax. Now, I could use brown paint, but I am really scraping by on my brown paint. So I'm definitely going to have to put that on the list. I also have truffle chalk paint, which is like a brown, but I'm just going to go with this antique wax. Now, this is like a wood stain, kind of. It reacts the same way, but it's going to react a little bit different on the chipboard, and it's going to really soak in and be super dark. But it kind of acts, when you're applying this to wood, or when you're applying it to plastic or mat board, it kind of acts the same way. But because the chipboard is like a cardboard, it's kind of porous, it's just going to soak right in. So I'm going to do a video on using this stuff on one of my Bond kits, and show you how I can make that look like real wood using this. So when I'm using this now on my chipboard, it's totally different. So it's kind of like the rules don't apply here. It's a little bit of a different technique here, because again, the chipboard is really porous, so it's just going to soak it in. It's not going to react the same way. It's not going to look the same way. So do not go based on this part right here. But I chose to use this because it's really pretty much all I have as far as the brown. Now I'm just placing these pieces um, just to see if I want to go with a straight frame, or if I want to kind of miter these corners. And I chose to miter them down to kind of match a little bit with the rest of the door frames. So this is all I'm doing here. Now I'm going to go in and add some craft sticks to the two sides of this frame. I'm not going to add it to the top part, because you're really not going to see that as much. And I'm also going to give a nice coat of the antique wax on all three of these frames here. Again, I am not doing the same technique I would normally do when I'm using my antique wax. I'm going to go a bit heavy on this. I'm not going to use it like wood stain, because I'm going to be covering it up with white acrylic paint and distressing and aging it a bit. So I just wanted to give you the heads up on that. But I will show you how I use that in the same way as wood stain later on my Bond kit. Now, I just want to take the time to say thank you for being here and watching today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have, please give it a thumbs up. I know it was a lot of prep work, but in the next video, 3 more days, you'll get to see the installation and the final results and the transformation of this room here and where I go from there. So here I'm just adding the chipboard. Again, I want to create that depth for the closet opening. And I'm just going to go in and give this a coating and then apply the white paint to it. You'll see what it looks like here in the very end. But I hope you all enjoy this video today. Give it a thumbs up. Let me know so in the comments below what you thought so far. I know this is not the fun stuff to see, but it gives you the steps that I've taken and show you how I get to those final results that you'll see. But I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank you all for subscribing. And if you do subscribe, please don't forget to hit that top bell notification button so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. And here's what they look like. I'm going to do my crackle technique just in some random spots just to be more cohesive with the rest of the wall. And then I'll go in with my white acrylic paint and distress these and age these out. Here you can see, I'm just going to give you a view of where I'm adding that crackle. Again, it's just all random. I'm not really thinking about it. I do want to add it a little bit more where the pieces are going to meet because I feel like that's where the paint would crack in those areas. But I guess it really doesn't matter. It's going to crack where it wants to, right, when it starts to age. So this is what it's looking like. Now, again, I hope you all enjoyed this video. And until next time, tiny friends, come back in 3 days and see those results. You all have a lovely day. Bye-bye.